What's good, people of God? It's your boy, Minister Maurice Barnes, aka Minister Mo, aka Young Peter in the Garden of Gethsemane. I'm your host for Church in the Streets, and I want to welcome you back to the conversation. If you're new to the podcast or this is your first episode, welcome. We've been building with the Kings all of May in honor of Mother's Day and building men who are protectors, providers, and prayer warriors. Since we're about to start a series for the Queens in June to return the favor for the Kings, we're talking about CodePurple tonight. What is CodePurple, you ask? It's the overlap of blue and pink. It's where men and women interact with each other in a way that may be different than the way they are used to. The blue man shows up. He wants to hit a problem, dole out a fix, and get back to the game. The pink woman, she shows up with emotions to spare and wants you to listen to her and the issue at hand. Where they overlap, that's what we call CodePurple. I kind of started incorporating this philosophy in relationships years ago without seeking God first. So needless to say, that's why a lot of those relationships fail miserably. Communication is critical. There's a saying that goes, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. I believe that to be so true. In order to properly communicate, we have to be speaking our partner's language. Did y'all read the 5 love languages? Why not? If you read it, if you haven't, you'll know you're a little bit ahead of the game if you already peeped the reading material. But the scripture says, let every man be slow to hear, be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. Let every person be quick to hear. When was the last time you showed up to a conversation with the intent to listen? Listening is an art form that's completely underrated in our society, and apparently in our marriages as well. See, people hate silence and feel the need to chatter, but they often over-explain and talk over the other person in conversation. They don't care about what you have to say. They want to tell you what's on their mind. Be slow to speak. Ever get into a conversation with someone and it's like you pushed over a bucket of water? Every detail in their life just spills out like the stream of a fire hose. Ain't no pauses, no breaks in the conversation. It's just one-sided, and you're there to listen. When it comes to grievances, this isn't a big deal. See, people desire to be heard. It becomes more troublesome when people are argumentative, blaming, and only negative. They aren't looking for a discussion. Have you done that before? Maybe good communication is about letting the other person know they are valued, and you're there to have a conversation with each other. How would you ever help someone if you're yammering about yourself all the time? Take a moment, gather your thoughts, and once you've made your point, give space for the person to respond. I'm open for any debate as long as the same amount of time you explain your point, you listen to mine. Be slow to anger. I know people who say they're Christians who are always angry. Seems like they're just mad at this group or that tax. They're frustrated with everything, and they really want you to know about it, especially with social media. Everybody posting how they feel all day, every day. Granted, there are topics to be passionate about, but not everything is worth fighting over. If social media had one fatal flaw, it gave a platform to the ugly Christian that spew whatever agenda they want to talk about just at the click of a button. Them keyboard gangsters, you know what I'm saying? Those people who talk a big game on social media, but in person, you know them for real. When was the last time you showed up to a conversation with the intent to listen rather than to speak? Do you dominate the conversation, or do you ask the other person as much as they ask about you? Pray about how you communicate with people. Ask God to give you wisdom and the words you need to interact with people effectively. You reflect God in all you do, and the way you communicate is a large part of that. For the longest, we've been on communication because that's what's so critical. It's all about dollars and cents. You and your bride just got back from your honeymoon and things are going perfectly. Over coffee in the morning, one of you mentioned that you like to work on your budget together. The other person stops mid-coffee sip and looks at you if you had a third eye on your head. Are you a unicorn or something? A what? You repeat that like you like to talk about a budget so you can plan for tithing, saving, spending, and all the things that actually come with living life. What both of these people just realized is that one grew up without a budget and one grew up with a budget. That could be a very delicate conversation to have. See, I came up in a family that didn't talk about finances. My mom just went to work and paid the bills. She had side hustles like baking cake and catering to make extra money for the things I wanted up until high school. But after I was old enough to work, I ain't want anybody knowing what my pockets look like, so that didn't compute in my world. There was no dust on my money from sitting still. Like my mom used to say, that money had a burning a hole in my pocket. But money is one of those things that people struggle with most of their lives. Money makes you say strange things like, I deserve this, or I need this. People shop out of depression and insecurity more than you think. I had a friend who worked with who was having car issues, money issues, family issues, on top of a 90-minute one-way drive to work. He came in one day and I asked him how his weekend went. He said he and his wife purchased a whole living room set. I asked if they'd been shopping long for one, how long they'd been looking. He said, nah, they was feeling depressed over the weekend, and this was supposed to make them feel better. Notice he said, was supposed to. If managing money is tricky for you, talking about the conversation gonna be even harder. You may wanna open up in discussion and prayer and set the bar at, Lord, this is your money, not ours. It's important to understand that so you can know that you're trying to be good stewards of what God has given you. That alone should change the way each of you saves and spends money. That song, Somebody Rockin' Knockin' the Boots, talking about sex. When I was younger, I thought that when I got married, we have sex every day, multiple times a day. It seems unrealistic now, but that's what I thought. Life is a funny thing, and many times it's stranger than fiction. I heard an older king tell a group of people to put 2 pennies in the jar every time you have sex the first year of marriage. And the second year, take each one out every time you have sex. I mean, I assume this was his way of saying it's going to taper off over time. But since people almost set aside time to worry on purpose, it's no wonder that we're distracted most of the time. Anxiety, work, money, sleep, insecurity, health, kids, just a few reasons a husband and wife may not be having the intimate time they need with each other. I know as a man, the longer I go without being intimate, the more temptations show up. Men are wired so different that it takes us off guard sometimes. To help women understand the mind of a man, here's an example. If you eat lunch before you go grocery shopping, you usually only buy whatever you put on your list. If you don't eat all that day, maybe a day or two before, you're going to be wanting all kind of crazy stuff to put in the basket. Man, I need them snacks. Ooh, look, butter pecan ice cream. I've been meaning to get some of that. Oh, bluebell. I love the scripture, 1 Corinthians 7 chapter 5th verse, because Paul understands it's not good to deprive one another. The word deprive tells you that intimacy is needed. Your wife may be approaching this topic much the same as you are. Men think that women never think of sex, they want sex. That's not true. In fact, it's far from the truth. Women are sexual creatures, and the older they get, fellas, let's just have these conversations. That's part of intimacy. I'm not talking about the, ooh, you like it there, convo. I'm talking about articulating what she likes, what you like, being free to discuss this openly. It's important to make time for each other and to speak about setting aside time for intimacy. Would you say you and your wife are always on the same page when it comes to having sex? When was the last time you and your wife had a conversation about sex that didn't start off with, are we ever gonna have sex again? If you find the world closing in on your intimacy, start to have date nights. Do something together as couples that ends with intimacy. Maybe a weekend getaway is just what the doctor ordered. The love doctor, that is. I mean, we have to be intentional about every area of our lives. And we also have to be intentional about the way that we address parenting. Because in today's culture, men are portrayed as these disconnected dudes who just spend money and provide. I mean, if you let the internet and sitcoms tell it, we just there for financial stability. But let's make sure that's not the truth, kings. Let's get off the couch. Let's get active in our kids' life. God made man and woman to be a team. And that team is meant to be working together when parenting. Your wife needs your presence in the leading, the teaching, and the discipline of the children. Yeah, she can do it by herself. So can you. Ladies, we know some of you think you don't need a man, but that's not how God created the family dynamic to be. Both of them working together, living and serving each other while teaching your children about God, about Christ. Parents should not be about having a good cop, bad cop. That thing limps along, but a godly, focused couple that works together for the good of the family. Your wife is going to bring all kind of strength that you won't possess. She will also be able to look for things that you are strong in and what you bring to the family. Your children will model the kind of people they're going to be on how you work together, how you speak to each other, and how consistent you parent. Don't second guess or undermine your spouse in front of kids. Ask to speak in private about the matter and get on the same page before you regret something you and both are going to do in the public. See, we all see these parents that never work on their marriage or their parenting skills and just have blow up after blow up. But your kids are watching. They see how to learn how to be a parent from you. God is expecting you to be the husband, the dad, and the leader that you were always meant to be. If that statement sounds familiar, it's the mission statement of Church in the Streets. That's what I repeat every week. That's what I'm preaching. That's what I'm teaching. Do you parent with your wife, or do you let her do the heavy lifting and then you only step in when things get serious, when you need to spank, when you need to discipline? Have you and your wife ever done a study on parenting? Why not? If you have, do you implement what you learn? If not, then what you waiting on? Your parenting years are shorter than you think. You only have a certain amount of time to pour godly counsel into your children and show them what a godly parent looks like. I challenge you and your wife to do a study on parenting. If you're not married and looking to be married, I challenge you to do studies on marriage. You gotta learn this. I challenge you to do studies on finances, on your health, because health is wealth. Yeah, I'm talking about your health, fellas. Our scripture said we need to present ourselves as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God. At 43, I'm far from the man of my 20s. Staying in shape is a real challenge, but I wake up every day and make a concerted effort to be better, to be stronger, to be faster, to be wiser. I want my body to be in as great a shape as it can so that I can continue to be active in Leah's life, not miss a step with this kingdom mandate that I've undertaken. Kings, go to the doctor. Stay up on your health, because we can spend our health acquiring wealth and then turn around and spend that wealth trying to regain our health. Our family needs us to be in the best condition we can be in, mentally, physically, and spiritually. If your woman is on you all the time about missing appointments, not staying on top of the game when it comes to your health, she love you, King. Applaud that. Follow up, work out regularly. See somebody about those issues you're struggling with. Talk about it to somebody. A professional. There ain't nothing wrong with going to therapy. Find a therapist that's right for you, a God-fearing therapist. You don't know any? Think you need to see somebody? Drop a comment down there. I'll shoot you a message and make sure you get connected with the people you need to get the type of help that you really, really need, so that health can be priority one. Do you exercise on a regular basis? Why not? Would you exercise if a couple of your friends did this to you? Would you exercise if it was a sport instead of going to the gym? We got to come outside the box when it comes to our health. My challenge to you is to find what works for you. Try to get into a groove. I know. Try it again and again and again and again if you need to. Ask somebody to work out with you. Find somebody to partner with you. We are not in this alone, so we should be trying to undertake this alone. Last but not least, I want to talk about when it's time for the empty nest, when your kids moving out. This one may ruffle some feathers and all, but let's normalize allowing our children to stay in our house till they're financially secure enough to live on their own. As for me, Leah can stay home until she get married if she want to, and rent-free at that. She's my child, and I do my best to prepare her for a secure future financially as well as spiritually. But to put her at 18, to put her out, I feel like that would hinder her growth and put unnecessary stress on her life. The people that I saw excel academically in college was the people that didn't have to worry about finances. You know what I'm saying? Those of us who had to work and try to go to school, we studied. But the struggle got really real when we had to pay out of pocket for it. I think a lot of our young men make some of the mistakes that they make because they're looking to make easy money when financially stressed in college or in life. In the meantime and in between time, you still got to be present with your mate, because those years of parenting fly by. Don't neglect her for the kids' sake. If you wait till the kids move out and try to reconnect with your wife, you might find that the struggle, it may come across as, oh, now the kids are gone. You got time for me? Invest in the relationship. That starts with everything for both of you. Make date nights. Go out to dinner regularly. Make time for coffee. Get to know each other, because as you're together, you evolve as people. Learn the people you've evolved into so that you can be better, so that we can be better. What do you and your partner do to keep your relationship healthy? Invest in your marriage and your relationship before your kids leave the house. Choose one night each week. Do a date. You know what I'm saying? Don't do it with the kids. Dinner, coffee, just sit back in the living room and watch a show, binge something together. Reconnect. Intimacy is about more than sex. Then we hit the finish line, our retirement years. After seeing how some people retire, I don't know if I'm looking forward to that kind of retirement. I've never worked for a company that has a golden parachute or pays you to retire. So it's always been on us to plan for that period in our lives. With owning our own companies, it's even more on us to prepare for that season in life. But I'd like to speak about this part of our lives differently. It's great to think about time and money to travel the world, to be on permanent vacation from work and be able to come and go as you please. Your wife may have her own ideas about how y'all go retire. Shopping and antiquing with coffee in one hand, day trips to the mountains, lunch just to look at the trees change of color. That's rarely what happens when retirement comes along. Money might get tight, your health may get in the way of you traveling. All the things you put off through life seem to be out of reach. You and your wife may have different goals now that you retired. Having a conversation about how you can serve together. But your calling to what Paul calls the good fight or the race, it doesn't change. In fact, you may have to get involved with ministry this time in your life when you didn't have any time before you retired. I don't want to spend all my time playing spades, playing solitaire, doing puzzles. That may have a place in my future, but not today. God can use you no matter what age you are if you're open to it. Think about it. Moses was 120 years old when he finished serving God. Joshua, 110. Abraham, 99 years old when God called him to father Isaac. David was 70 years old after reigning as king of Israel. Paul, he was 64 when he was called home. Peter was 65 when he died in the name of Christ. John was 98 when he died serving Christ. How old do you have to be to serve God? If you woke up and you're breathing, you're old enough. However old you are right now, it's going to do just fine. Let's stay in code purple, fellas. Let's keep our communication up. I'm Minister Maurice Barnes, a.k.a. Minister Mo, a.k.a. Young Peter in the Garden of Gethsemane. Thank y'all for chilling with us on Church in the Streets. This has been real. Y'all be easy.